Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm very excited. Today we're going to replace the plastic valve cover assembly with this cast aluminum one from JDMSpeed. And I'm hoping that this will take care of my code so I can get back into ethanol tuning. Hey guys, so I actually stumbled onto this valve cover by pure coincidence. I was actually going on to Amazon to go ahead and replace my plastic valve cover. What you see here is the JDMSpeed one. It's worked great for 3.5 years, but I think that all the boosts that I run through it over the last 3.5 years, the vacuum canister finally cracked. That's what I suspected. So anyway, I'll go to order it and I see that now there's an option to buy an aluminum one for $151. So I said, let me take a look at this. Oh my God, this thing looks amazing. So um, obviously, at that price, it was hard to say no. And I think it would be a great solution for my situation. So I went ahead and bit the bullet and bought one. I wanted to show you guys that this does include the valve cover gasket. One thing it does not come with is the eccentric actuator flange gasket, which is this here. I went ahead and just picked one up from FCP Euro. Here's the part number for that. This is an L-ring brand. I do also like the fact that it looks like they actually used adhesive on the other side of the gasket, so you won't have to worry about the gasket falling off while you're installing it or like rolling off in the back, because I've seen that happen before. But now all of these are pretty well in place. So now let's be real about something. In today's world, chances are all these aluminum N55 valve cover assemblies are probably made at the same factory in China. That is just a safe assumption to make in today's world. And I'm okay with that. I have no problem with it as long as I see that the product is quality. I don't mind it being from China. I would rather be a US product, but I don't know of any manufacturer that makes them in the US. So China it is. With that said, I remember some time ago when these first started rolling out, I did see on the N55 Facebook group that somebody went in there and they started really giving a proper review. I believe it was Scott from the N55 group. He's the moderator there, so shout out to him. But you know, he did a really good job of pointing out some of the flaws that were on it in the casting, etc. He just had a lot of cleaning up to do before actually installing it. I'm sure it would have worked just fine, but you know, it's just one of those things that if you know that it could be better, you go in there and you fix the type of thing. Moving forward in time, now that I just picked up this one in particular from the vendor JDMSpeed, I see no flaws with it. The finish is on point. It's a nice and even distribution of the clear coat, so I don't think that there's going to be any issues with this coloring with this one. Number one, and also more importantly, the casting. I see no burrs. I don't see, everything is very, very tightly done. So whatever it is, they must have really stepped up their game since he did his review back then and now, because I got a pretty much flawless valve cover assembly. I'm very happy with this. So with that said, let's get on to the install. You guys notice I already took off my strut brace, so you do need to have that out of the way if you have one. The next thing is I'm going to remove this bar. Next, we're going to disconnect all the ignition coils and the injectors. There are two sub harnesses here, but towards the back they do join. It is a single connector all the way back to the DME. So once you unplug all 6 and 6, just throw it over to the side, and then we're going to take off the Valvetronic actuator harness. That's just 2 clips right now. Here we go, off to the side, and we're done. Once you have all the electrical stuff out of the way, then it's just a matter of the vacuum supply pipe, comes from the vacuum pump down there, and then we'll be able to take out all the hard lines for fuel. It's going to be, I'm just going to use an adjustable. There is a special tool that BMW uses. You don't need it. You can just use a small stubby adjustable or a small wrench, and you're going to just go ahead and knock them loose. Once you knock them loose, you can just spin them by hand. So it's going to be easy, okay? What you want to make sure of is that you keep them in order. So what I'm going to do is on the ground there, I'm going to go ahead and lay out pipes 1 and 2. They're going to be together. I'm going to put them the same way that they go in the car. I'm going to lay them out on the ground so that when it comes time to assembly, I know exactly how they go. They're only going to fit in one way, but honestly, to make your life easier, just make sure you keep them organized. Guys, I almost forgot to mention that this does include all the hardware you need. It all came in that bag, and I have no idea what goes where. I'm gonna have to figure it out as I go. But all the hardware came in this bag, and I don't speak Chinese. So what I did is I used Google Translate, and here's some screenshots of that translation. I don't know what unit of force is cow, so I will have to figure that out. I'm just gonna go by what the factory BMW torque spec is, which is 75 inch-foot. Here's a note for everyone that has a pneumatic N55, not the electronic wastegate, but the pneumatic one. Go to the parts store and get you an assorted vacuum cap kit. It's going to come in a box of like 5 or 10, whatever. But you want to make sure you get some caps, because you definitely don't want to reuse your old one. You want to make sure you put a fresh cap on it. So I got this because I don't remember what size it is, so I just got an assortment. So here, let me show you guys on the car. All right, you see right here, there are 2 tabs for vacuum. You have the line that goes down to the control solenoid, and then you have another one that's capped off. Most N55s is going to be capped off. If you see that you have a line there as well, it's because you have a variable muffler that uses engine vacuum to activate it. I don't have that, so I do have a vacuum cap on it. And you see here on the new one, there it is. So you want to make sure you have one, because if you don't cap that off, you're going to end up with underboosting issues. The DME is going to be asking for a particular boost, and it is not going to receive it because there's no vacuum being fed. You have basically a massive vacuum leak right there, because the vacuum galley is this right here. So remember to get a new cap. Just so you know what you're going to be using for all the bolts, it is an E10. Here you go. You see that? So the ones from BMW and the ones that JDMSpeed provides, they're all the same, E10. There you go. All right, guys, so here we go. This is what I mean as far as keeping things in order. That's coil 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in order as they came out of the car. And here you see that obviously they've been disconnected, and these are all the injector plugs. Right now, the only thing that's holding the harness on is the ground points. Every pair of cylinders at each bucket has one 10mm nut right here. Be very careful not to drop that, because that is a very big pain in the butt to try to recover. So there's going to be one at each pair, one there, you see the other one there, and there's another one back there. So once you have that out, then the entire harness is free and you can just throw it over. There we go. And all we got to do is just give it one good smack here and give it a good tap or pull. By the way, this is a pressurized system. I should have thrown the rag over it. See, I even had the rag here, so... Okay, I had to open the garage because of the fumes. In this side here, we are ready to go ahead and just start attacking all the perimeter bolts and the ones here at the center. I want to put on the screen just a tightening sequence order per BMW. It'll give you an idea of where all the bolts are. The ones in the back are a pain, but they are not impossible. Just so you know, it's the ones towards the corner there and the one in the middle and here. So 3 bolts back there. Those are a pain in the butt to get to. So you're going to have to play around with short socket, long socket, 3-inch extension, big extension, swivel, whatever you got to do. But just know that that's where your trouble is going to be. On an F10, it's not as bad because we have all the space. But if you have like an F30, you have all that cowling on the way. That's a pain. So just know that's where your headaches are going to be. The rest of this is pretty cake. Here's a little trick. If you remove this flange seal, it'll give you a few millimeters of play against because you see what's sticking out here is the actual Valtronic motor. If you remove the flange seal, it'll give you like 2 millimeters back to back that you can rock the valve cover assembly back and forth. So it makes it a little easier for removal if you remove that. You can leave it there, but you have to pull it straight out. You may not be able to do it depending on what platform you have. So remove that, make your life a lot easier. All right, guys, so I guess I confirmed the reason why I'm replacing my valve cover, and it's because I definitely have a crack in the vacuum canister, which is this section here. What happens is that over time and heat cycles, the tank can develop micro cracks. Typically, it doesn't happen on the outside, it happens on the inside. When I took this out, I actually flipped it to just do a visual inspection. You may or may not be able to see it. I wanted to try anyway, and when I flipped it, you see all that oil that's down there? All of that came out of here just by flipping this. And I had to flip it right back over because it was still pouring out of here. So that tells me that yes, this is definitely faulty. Now, is there a possibility that the vacuum pump is bad? Yes, but it's just very unlikely. Typically, this is the culprit. Let's also remember the fact that this is about 3.5 years old and the engine has been running well over double the amount of boost that it saw from factory. Does it surprise me that a $100 valve cover assembly did this? Not really. I think that an $800 valve cover assembly from BMW would have done the same thing, considering the amount of boost that I run through this engine. You know, if I'm going to be replacing it every few years, do I want to spend $800 or do I want to spend $100? $100 it is, buddy. Well, I guess 150 with the aluminum one, and hopefully that one is never going to have an issue with the vacuum canister. By the way, if you guys notice, I do have a cap just sitting in there right now, and that is because when I pulled off the reference line from here to the boost control solenoid, it started pouring out. So immediately I put it back, I went over to the side here and I grabbed one of my caps and I just stuck it in there so that when I removed the valve cover off the engine and walked it over here, I wasn't leaking oil all over the way. So keep one of these handy. Now is going to be the fun part, trying to figure out what all those bolts go to on here so I can figure out what they go to in the aluminum one. Alright guys, we've made progress. Took me a little longer than expected because I haven't had a stock engine in so long that some of this stuff I don't have anymore. So I didn't remember what they were for, but figured it out. So 14 of these are for the outside perimeter. 2 of these in particular are longer. They're also for the perimeter, but these 2 longer bolts are the back right corner and the front left corner. Those 2 bolts, turns out, are longer than the rest of them. Even though they're the same size head, they are longer. So something to keep in mind, see? All right, next up is these here. These are for the bucket uppers, which by that I mean these here. Kind of hard to tell, but if you see, look at the elevation at which these are compared to these. These are much higher, and that's why they need to be longer for just these 4 here. And then you have 6 that go along the lower and outsides, right? That's what those 6 are. Then of course, if you remember when you removed it, there should have been a metal weight that's here. That's actually a vibration absorber. That's what that is. So I found that screw. There it is. And then that does not apply to me. That is for the ignition injector harness. And if you guys remember, there's a plastic shroud that goes over it and it kind of hides them up here. And then it screws itself down on this side. Because I had B58 ignition coils, that plastic conduit was actually too big to allow for spacing back here on these cylinders for it. So I ended up having to just remove the conduit and just run bare wires, and that gave me all the clearance that I needed to have the B58 coils. So I don't have that anymore. These just stay empty on my car. Then you have 5 of these. That's an extra. Those 2 and 2, these are for the O2 sensor harness and the Valvetronic actuator. That's where they're gonna go. And there is an extra one of the harness conduit, and then this random hex. I have no idea what that hex is for. Maybe you guys can tell me in the comments if there is anything here in stock form that takes a 10mm hex. And one more thing for you guys to note is, notice that on the lower side of the valve cover, there are 3 blanks. Nothing here, and nothing there. So when you go to install this one, these are drilled through. So what I did is I just got a red marker and I put X, X, and X, so that obviously, you know, the screw is not going to fall in there, obviously, but it's just an easy visual reference, so I know not to even bother with those spots. All the mating surfaces for the gaskets here have already been cleaned off with brake parts cleaner using lint-proof or lint-less towels. So now that's nice and clean, that's ready to bring in the new one. All right, I said it once earlier in the video and I'm going to say it again here. It is very, very important for you not to forget to put all 3 of these grounding points back in for the harness. Any one that you miss will cause misfire issues because they ground the injectors and the coils of that particular bucket. So do not forget. Alrighty, so the harness is back in. All the injectors are connected, and I just went ahead and put all the hard pipes in place. I'm gonna go ahead and go around tightening all of them. All fuel hard pipes are now tight. All the coils are in. Everything's plugged in. The coils are tightened down. Valtronic actuator harness is back in place. Obviously the pulse control solenoid is hooked up. Do not forget, I say that several times, the plug that you're gonna need to put here. One is for the line that goes down. The second one, you need to plug it. If you don't have a second connector for your exhaust variable mufflers, that you need to plug that up. Otherwise, that is a vacuum leak for you. All right, all I have left now is to put in the vacuum pipe, which goes from the vacuum pump down there over here, and it hooks up right here. And then the crankcase ventilation line, which is from here to here, because of my Bimmer house intake. All right, guys, so final impressions. I do like it. I think that from a value standpoint, it is great. You should definitely go and check it out. I am not sponsored, by the way. I did buy it on my own. But yeah, just take a look at that, man. It looks incredible. It just adds that pop to this engine bay that was pretty boring. And let's face it, our engine bays are pretty ugly. Now there's actually something there to kind of like bling. One thing that I did forget to say is the fact that this does come with a new cap, but I don't like it. It's actually pretty ugly. Take a look at this one. See that there? I tried to fit it on, and maybe it's because the springs at the bottom are brand new, and it was pretty stiff. I was like, yeah, I don't know. And the last thing I wanted to do is break the top half and have the bottom half stuck on the new valve cover. So I'm like, you know what? Let me not use this. So I went ahead and took the original one. I just cleaned it up and using that, and honestly, looks pretty good there. So maybe I'll replace that cap with something else. But not right now. For now, that works perfectly fine. Anyway, I hope that when it comes time for you guys to do your valve cover gasket or replace your valve cover assembly, this tutorial was helpful for you. I didn't do a step-by-step, but really I just covered the important stuff. Chances are, if you're willing to take this on, you're not a rookie. So just having your important stuff being laid out to you, I think is more important. And there are other videos on YouTube already that do a proper step-by-step on how to do this. I wasn't going to go through all that. Anyway, I hope you guys liked it, and if you did, please give me a like, consider subscribing, and like I always say, more projects for the F10 and the Jetta outside. You guys have a good one. Thank you so much.